It is finally time for the A-League men's season to get underway. It is the longest off-season in football. It is time to put our necks out on the line, get off the middle of the fence and give our predictions for the upcoming season. We're going to go bottom to top from last season's A-League ladder and give our ladder predictions for every single team. This is a very fiercely contested competition in the RBA world.
Yes, as you reminded us pre-recording that you got the star beside your name, and I was saying, like, how is that possible? You edit the videos? Do you, behind the scenes, do you change things up? Because I don't know how you always win the predictions game as well. Unbelievable. So you cannot win this time around. We've got to put a stop to this run, but it's going to be an exciting season.
At the end of this video, I'm going to reveal who won the previous year for the ladder prediction as well. But we have a little bit more competition this year. We've got a few extra names that have thrown. Last year we only had 4, but this year we've got a few more that have thrown their hat into the ring with their ladders. So you have to think real hard about where you're going to put these teams. But competition feels very open. All right, let's kick off with Perth Glory, the wooden spoon getters from season 24-25. Now, I'm going to take a go at these guys because I am on record publicly on social media and on this podcast saying that I think the transfer window that David Zulich has had with the Glory will make them a top 6 team. I've got them just making it in 6th position. And truth be told, literally like you, Jacob, I'm looking at, oh God, if I put Perth Glory in, who am I going to kick out? So it was difficult for me to get them there, but I had to have them in 6. I have to stick by my guns. And Christian, I just think that the transfer window, as I said, Brian Kaltak, Scott Wooden in the heart of defence. They got this new import they've just signed as well. Callum Timmins is a great depth piece, and there's so many other names that they've brought in that should complement that team very, very well. If they get the likes of Luke Amos and Adam Taggart firing as well, I think they can be a really good competitive team this year. So, yeah, I got them just making it into finals.
I had to pull you into line a bit a few weeks ago when we did the transfer window grades. You had them with an A, and I thought that was a bit too generous. I know they've made a few solid signings like Sutton and Kaltak, which are I think going to be huge at the back because even before Zulich came in, right, they were just conceding goals for fun, and I think that problem will fix itself a bit with those types of players coming in with that experience. But I've got them in second last. I've got the Glory.
Second last.
I've got the Glory in 11th. I just think this team
so many
for me,
teams worse than them, Christian. There's so many worse than them.
Only one team, which we'll all have them as the wooden spoon. I'm 99% sure of that once we get to them. But this team for me, they're a bit underwhelming, especially in the final third. Like if Taggart doesn't, hit his stride, who's really consistently scoring the goals, right? I think they'll be heavily reliant on him a bit too much. And for David Zulich, this is his last chance, right? I don't think if he has another poor season, he's out the door. I think we can all probably agree with that.
Probably.
Another poor season, however you want to measure that, whether that's not making finals or finishing whatever, bottom 2, bottom 4, but he needs to prove a lot of doubters wrong because last season he had a few excuses with injuries and, assembling a new squad, trying to get to know everyone. But now with the fresh new pre-season, to get ready for this new campaign, no real excuses now. And Matt Olsen will disagree with that a bit. Obviously, he's very pessimistic about this Glory side, and he'll disagree with you a lot, Lachie, about putting them in 6th. But I just think it's one of those which would cause a bit of controversy. Might be a shock, obviously, for you two with your reactions. But
you just can't. You can never go a year without just saying something crazy. Like, what was it last year? Wanderers are going to win it all. Like, it's just...
Look, we had Sydney as a lock last season, right, to win the championship. They didn't even make finals. You get these shocks, right, where you don't expect they come out of the blue. And this is just... It's not even that out of the blue, really, if you think about it. Is it? I mean, are they a lock to even make finals?
I just think that
No, they're not a lock at all.
They're not a lock, but I think they're one of the teams that are in the chase for it, right? Like, I don't think they're one of the teams that a lot of people are considering to be one of the worst in the competition. I kind of agree with Lachie. There's been very good recruitment. Defensively, they look pretty solid and strong now. You mentioned Adam Taggart needs to have a big season, but name a single season he's had that hasn't been a good season. He pretty much is just the most reliable striker in the league at this point. Even
last year, still banging him in.
Yeah, exactly. Scored, double-digit goals for one of the worst Perth Glory sides we've seen in a long time. And they've brought in Tom Lawrence as well, who's a quality striker himself. So I think the problem Perth do have is kind of in squad balance, where like they've just got a ton of midfielders for some reason. I don't know why they just keep signing midfielders. Every signing that comes in, it's like it's a good signing, but we've got 8 other guys that do exactly that same job. Like and I've seen a few Perth fans saying similar things. So I think that's kind of where things could derail for them, that their squad's a bit imbalanced. But for that reason, I've not gone crazy like you, Christian. I've not gone super low. I'm kind of splitting the middle. I'm saying 7th. I think they've got the potential to make finals. I think they can make finals this year, and I think they've got the squad to do it. And I think if Zrilic, comes out strong and can implement some good football, then I think they've got that opportunity. But I think that there is just a slight imbalance still, and there's still the doubts about Perth Glory being a good football team, because it's just kind of, they've not been for a while now, right? So it kind of feels like it's going to take something monumental for them to get there. So I'm kind of just split the middle a little bit there, where I think they're in the chase, but I don't think they're a lock.
Fascinating. All right, Brisbane Roar, 12th position in 24-25. Now, this is a team, this is where the competition, this is where the game gets interesting, because there has been so much hype around the Brisbane Roar, but we haven't seen them play. Like, they've played friendlies and people who have watched them say they look good, but I haven't seen the Brisbane Roar play, and yet I'm trying to put them on an A-leg ladder going into round 1. So there's a lot of hype, and they're doing lots of great stuff in the community. They're getting good crowds. Christian, does that mean they're going to have a good football season?
Again, it's sort of the unknown, right? We haven't actually seen them, properly, at least consistently. And I think we're going to need a few weeks at least to find out, because obviously we've got Valkanis, who's come in as a new coach for this season. So in terms of ladder position, I've got them in 9th. I don't think that's not as controversial as Perth, surely. We can agree that it's that's about right for this side, because again, on paper, no one really screams out of inspiring you to turn a game, to change a game when it's needed, to score a goal when they need one. It's one of those squads which really, to be honest, hasn't changed a whole lot. I'm not talking about names as such, but in terms of personality, right? Who's a player who can carry the team on their back, right, when they're struggling? I think it's going to be one of those seasons which fans aren't going to like to hear, but it's going to be another rebuild, new coach, a new set of players coming in, new faces. The likes of Quinn McNichol, for example, who has shown a lot of promise the past 1 or 2 seasons. He's so young, but probably has to be one of those who stands up a bit, right? Which might be a bit harsh, but that's sort of the position that Brisbane find themselves in at the moment. Henry Hoare, Jay O'Shea is going to be massive in the midfield. I think he won the club's best and fairest for last season, rightly so, because he was head and shoulders above the rest in what was a really dire and struggling season. So, yeah, I've got them in 9th place. I just don't see how they're going to challenge the big sides. Yes, they might cause a few upsets here and there, but for the most part, it's just a side which really lacks that real cutting edge.
Jacob?
I agree. I've got them in 9th as well. I think their problem is, like you say, Christian, just lacking game changers, and especially in that final third, kind of, looking through their squad, it's just a little bit, you've got Ben Halloran in there who has had some very good seasons, particularly at Adelaide opposite Craig Goodwin. So, you kind of have that benefit of working with another world-class player. So, that's a big benefit to him, but he's not had a great season for a little while now. It feels like maybe if he can turn back the clock a little bit and help out in attack, it could be a bit of a difference maker between Brisbane and some of the teams that I've put ahead of them. But I think right now, it's, we haven't seen them play too much. B, I just don't have a confidence in their squad. It's not like they've gone out and they've made these big name signings, or even just, a lot of signings like Perth have done, for instance, right? It's just kind of been, I like what you said, Christian. It feels like the same kind of squad that they had last season. I think it's a little bit more stable, the situation they find themselves in, than last season, which is going to help them out compared to the teams that put below them. But yeah, I think 9th place is about right for them at this point.
Yeah, I agree that their squad hasn't had a dramatic shift.
Yeah.
My key consideration into putting them one spot higher than you two into 8th has been that I think they were underrepresented last year.
Right. That's true.
I
You
think
were a big fan of them last year, yeah.
I put them very high. So when we get
Yeah.
to the end of the video, you'll see I got killed by my Brisbane Roar prediction. But I think that the early run killed them. They just had a number of losses in a row and they couldn't get a win, and it just killed momentum. And then you had to deal with all the Suncorp issues and playing in front of just an empty stadium. There was no chance that the vibe was going to get you going again and spurk a run. And I think hopefully, as long as they don't have such a crushing start, the vibe at there is really good. As much as I said, that could be something that kind of pulls the curtain over a little bit from what we can tell of them from pre-season. I think that'll help stabilise them. So I wouldn't be surprised if they challenge for finals and even get in. But yeah, I've got them in 8th place. Let's go to team number 11, the Wellington Phoenix. A dramatic fall, Jacob, from the season before, and promise of another little bounce back, but the transfer window is left a bit to be desired.
Yeah, lots of outgoings since their good season 2 seasons ago now. Obviously, I think that the main thing is that it's still Italiano that's there, and I still have a belief that he is a good coach and that he can get something out of this team. But yeah, I just really struggle to see where that's going to come from, considering they've not really addressed many, if any, of their issues this off-season in the transfer market. And I think that that's a really difficult position to put your coach in, to say we're expecting good results, here's nothing. That's a difficult one. It's a shame, because I do think that when the league has a good Wellington, like how great was it 2 seasons ago when they were doing well and they were getting good crowds, and like it just was a great vibe. And I suppose Auckland's kind of stolen their thunder with that a little bit, so it would be nice to have them back up there and bringing even more to the New Zealand derby, which it was fantastic last season, but I just don't really see it. They were okay in the cup, by their standards at least, right? Where in seasons past they've been pretty rubbish and they haven't really taken it all that seriously. A lot of people have pointed to the fact they've played a young squad in the cup this season, but that is their squad. It's not like they had many other options. I think they headed into round 1 with just about enough contracted players to actually field a squad in the first place. It's been a difficult one for them, but I just don't see them making waves. I think the benefit that they have obviously is playing home in Wellington. It's always a difficult place to travel to. Chiefy can scrape results out here and there when he needs to. So for that reason, I've not put them last, but I have put them in 11th, finishing in the same spot they did last season. Interesting.
I have them 1 up in 10th. Honestly, for not a very good reason. We'll get to the other club that I was kind of tossing them up with. I think I just want them just to have that extra spot.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for Chiefy because I feel like he would do great with a good squad, and I just don't think he has it. So Christian, I have him, in 10th.
The only reason why I have the Phoenix in 8th is because
you put Perth so low.
Yeah, true.
That's one of the reasons. It's only because of Italiano. I have so much belief in him that he will not have another poor season. I just can't picture in my mind of him having back-to-back terrible seasons. I know, yes, the squad isn't probably as you've hoped. He would have wanted, at least a couple more really reliable, solid signings just to help him, get through and challenge for finals, which I don't think they're at that stage to challenge. When I say they're going to finish in 8th place, I mean at least, 8 to 10 points off 6th place. I mean, it's going to be one of those where they'll be a bit off. But, you look at the midfield, right? Paolo Retre, Alex Rufer, those two are going to be the absolute heartbeat of that midfield. If one of those two goes down injured or hurt, they're suspended, that midfield is very weak. And you could probably say that for the rest of the squad, right? In terms of the depth, it's just not there. And that's my one big concern. Even defensively, they don't have the likes of Alex Paulson, Sam Sutton, these players in defence which you can rely on, which Italiano using his tactical prowess to maybe switch to a back 3 or wing back to the back 5. He can change things up. It's very hard now with such a limited squad and players who they're just, some of them just aren't reliable, really, to be totally honest. So the only reason why I've got them in 8th is Italiano, pure and simple, but they could easily be lower. And it just got to do as well with the teams around them, which I have placed as well.
All right, 10th place. The Central Coast Mariners. Can we tick this one off quickly?
12th.
Yeah. I think they're finishing bottom. I think it would take a miracle
12.
for them not to.
Yeah, look, we've talked about this. Mark
Can they be
Jackson.
13th?
No.
Western United overtakes them.
Western United. All right. Well, maybe we're a little bit harsh there, but obviously losing Mark Jackson on the eve of the season, losing another good crop of talented players. Mikkel Docker was pretty much your last one of that really core group of winners that you had left, and you've had an underwhelming season in terms of bringing them in, and there's still plenty of drama going on behind the club. I think we just go bang, 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 leave it there. Mariners in 12th. 9th from last season, the Newcastle Jets. Now, this is a fascinating one. Christian, I am very keen to hear what their Australia Cup win has done to impact your prediction on their A-League season.
Massive, if you can call it that. I've got them just snuck into the 6th. They're in 6th place for me. That Australia Cup run, okay. I think with Mark Milligan, tremendous work he's done over the past few games to get to that final and ultimately win that championship final against Heidelberg. I thought they were really mature performances at the end of the day, and that's something you don't really associate with the Newcastle Jets all that often for quite a few years now. And I think defensively especially, Milligan is going to add so much to this team. We saw when he was assistant at Adelaide that the wheels fell off once he left. Defensively they just leaked goals left, right and centre. At least now with the Jets, you can rely on them to at least keep some clean sheets, don't concede too many silly goals, and actually keep themselves in more games than not. And that's why I think over time, accumulating points here and there, might pick up a couple of draws on the road to tough opposition. They're the type of side who can grind out results now. And I think Milligan is the right man, to lead this side potentially for finals football. And again, it's dependent on, I've had to drop out one team, which I was debating whether to put, whether 6th or 7th position, but I've gone with it. I might regret it. But yeah, Jets in 6th for me.
Jacob?
I really want to put them in finals because I think the story would be great. But we have been burnt in the past by good Australia Cup performances, not reflecting themselves in the regular season. I think that the Jets might be a little bit kind of cup hungover in a way where it's like they've just won their first trophy since 2008. It's kind of, the expectations are going to be huge. It's going to be difficult to live up to that. Their squad skews quite young as well, which is another red flag to me. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Adelaide United teams of years going, like exactly years past. They're the kind of team that you can see why people are so excited by them, and you can see why they could have a really good season. But what they lack that those Adelaide United teams did have is like that one guy that's going to be just like a Craig Goodwin, right? Or an Iran Kunda or somebody like that is just going to turn a game completely and dominate, and that's shut it out, and you get a win when you shouldn't. Whereas the Jets, I don't know. I feel like they've got a lot of players who are capable of that, but I don't think there's one that they're going to turn to every time, which is going to make things difficult for Milligan making that decision on who to sub and who not to and things like that. And so just being a slightly younger and experienced squad coming off of this big cup final win, for them, that's a huge achievement. I think they might be a little bit woozy heading into the season, maybe, and it's not going to pan out for them. So I have them finishing in 8th, but I really do like them. I like what they've got going on. I think Milligan's done a great job, but we've been burnt too many times by this sort of thing in the past, and they've got a young squad, so it's just I'm being a bit cautious with them.
Yeah, I'm with you as well on the age profile. I think they're probably going to have a good start. They'll be able to be streaky at times, but just like that Adelaide team, just like the Brisbane Roar team of 23-24, and I know they lost Ross Aloisi in the middle of that as well, but the idea is that when adversity hits and when things don't go your way all the time, how does the mentality of a young squad like that bounce back to those challenges? So I have them one spot below you as well in 9th, just to make room for a couple other of those teams as well. It is Mark Milligan's first year. I think he's done a great job in the Cup, but that is a very small sample size. So let's see how it turns out over this season. And again, they're another team that is in that window that if they make a good run, absolutely they can challenge for finals, I think. MacArthur FC, Jacob, they have to deal with Asia this year. They've had a little bit of an up and down start to the ACL2. Obviously, the win against Beijing was really, really good. So they've kind of got themselves back in a good position in the group. So they will have to balance Asian competition. But a team that under Mile Stojovski has been building
Yeah.
over the last 2 years. And if not for a number of offers they received in January last season, they would have gone on to play finals and probably done quite well. But unfortunately, just with the amount of talent that they lost during that transfer window, for money, they did sell these players on. They fell out of the six. So what are your thoughts?
I mean, initially when I was like, I completely forgot about them, to be honest, which I think it reflects in my placement of them, where it's like they are the most just bog standard A-League team for me this season. I think that, yes, there's a good project being built there, but it's a lot of familiar faces that we've seen before, which I think is a good thing. It plays into what they're trying to do, right? And having that reliability and that experience in their squad. The likes of Luke Bratton and Anthony Caceres in the middle, for instance, that's a really good partnership that's I'm sure going to be fantastic for them moving into this season. But yeah, the other problem is, like you said, Asia, and that almost had me dropping them out of the six, and I was like, it's going to be an extra fixture, for them to have to play every week kind of thing. And it just becomes, we've seen it impact teams in the past, but I don't know. I feel like there's just something about them that just says average to me. And that's not as an insult, but just as in like, I don't see them having the depth to be able to compete in both Asia and the league at a really high level. But I don't see their floor as being so low as to finish kind of in that 8th, 9th range. So I've put them firmly in the middle in 6th.
Okay, just making finals.
Yeah.
You guys know I'm pretty high on the Bulls. And
Yeah.
I take a lot of credence in the fact that they were really good until they lost some of those talented first teamers. And I think they've replaced well. Anthony Caceres is a brilliant signing.
Yeah.
Will go down as one of the signings of the season. And they still have a pretty solid backline. Philip Curto is still an outstanding keeper, and he didn't have his best year last season.
Yeah.
So if he returns to his form, he's going to be another strength. You got Harry Sawyer, who's having his second year back in the A-League. You've got Luke Bratton in the heart of midfield. You've got Chris Economides, who is starting to look like his old self again in the early stages of Asian competition. So I have them making the top 4. I have them in 4th position. I'm really high on them. I think Millet is building something cool. I think, Christian, they're going to be able to do it. This is going to include a good run in the ACL2, hopefully at least to the quarterfinals of that competition as well. And for me, a top 4 finish in the A-League.
Not too bad. You say you're very high on them. Not as high as me, because I've got them winning the championship.
You got them winning?
In first place, yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Let me explain. So Asia doesn't faze me whatsoever. I think they're able to rotate.
He wants another treble. He wants another treble.
I'm not worried about treble. I just want them to finish in first place to help me with my prediction. So I think this is I disagree. I disagree with Jacob. I think this is a really, really solid team, especially given the fact that the players that they had to sell back in January, which obviously the wheels fell off and they couldn't obviously regain their form, and they finished 8th place last season. So I know it's a massive jump, but for me, it's not crazy. The players have brought in the experience as well. Damien De Silva, I know he's a year older, but that will be huge at the back. Yep. They still got the likes of Matthew Yerman, Uskok, I believe, re-signed with the club. So he's sticking around. Callum Talbot, he's going to be another a big acquisition for this Bull side. Then you go over to the midfield. I was trying to get the players up. Anthony Caceres, we haven't even mentioned him. He's going to be probably, he was arguably one of the signings of the transfer window, right? So I think they've picked up a lot.
You heard me say that before, Jacob, right?
Lachie said that. You're just stealing his talking points now, Christian.
Sorry, I was so like overwhelmed and nervous I didn't even hear what Lachie said. To be quite honest with you, because I heard. Where did you have him, Jacob?
I have him 6th.
Yeah, when Jacob said I'm 6th, oh God, I better not say my prediction now. But I think my only one concern with this MacArthur side is who is going to score the goals, at least on a consistent basis, because you saw.
Jacob here agrees with you.
Yeah, obviously they saw Jed Drew. Jermaine's not there anymore. Yaklish was a really good source for goals last season too. Those 3 players are missing, so you have to rely on players like Economides, right, who I think is going to have a really, really big season. I know you mentioned his name as well, Lachie, just before.
I think he has to if they're going to win it.
I've got belief in him that he can have a really, really outstanding season. And it's have to be relying as well on Harry Sawyer, who is very inexperienced, right, at A-League level, only second season, coming from South Melbourne in the NPL. So that's my only one area of, little hints of doubt. But at the same time, this is a really well set up MacArthur side. Luke Braddon as well, Liam Rose. These are players who have been in the league for years, have got that experience. I think they're a dangerous side. I think them, and I won't mention the other couple of clubs which will sort of ruin the ladder prediction, but with those two other couple of teams, I think they can compete and really challenge. And for me, first place, I'm going to go out there and spring that surprise on you, which I know you guys didn't expect.
I can't believe
obviously.
you put a team first place and then gone, I don't know who's going to score the goals.
That's
What do you mean?
that is because they're going to be really solid defensively as well, midfield as well. I just think they're one of those teams who can afford to have someone who, don't have that out and out number 9, but can still get you wins, still get you results. Milos Stoyovski, he's impressed me over the past couple of seasons building this side. He was very unfortunate last season, but there's no excuses this time around. Even playing in Asia, I think they can get around that. And yeah, I've got them in first.
Well, I guess it just speaks to the evenness of the league, right, Jacob? You've got a team that is going to score the goals.
Is that you trying to be nice?
No, look, I genuinely think there are 5 or 6 teams that I was genuinely tossing up that I could put in first, and the Bulls were one of them. So
I had 4, but yeah, the Bulls were not one of them.
Okay, fair enough.
No, yeah, like
Well,
I
we'll
agree
come back
that
at
there
the
is
end of the season. And
there
we'll
is
see.
there is like kind of a consistency in just regards to it's the A League, anything can happen, and a lot of the squads look pretty strong in that top half of the table. I do agree with that, but I think that there are better teams than MacArthur, to be fair.
All right, well, let's go on to potentially one of them, Sydney FC, sitting in 7th place. Now, this is fascinating. Obviously, massive squad last season, underperformed greatly, missing finals. I'm expecting a return to the norm. Now, the blow of Douglas Costa is, obviously a player of his talent. He did contribute quite well last season. But I think what people will find is allowing Joe Lolly the space in his natural position out on the right wing is going to do wonders for them. And you guys know what I think of Paul Okonegsler. And they seem to have steadied their defense. Maybe the goalkeeper position is still a little bit, we'll have to wait and see on Hoofsloot. But I had the Sky Blues, Christian, pushing all the way back up to 2nd place.
If Paul Ocon didn't sign, would you be confident in this Sydney midfield?
No.
So you're relying on one player essentially.
I think he's that
middle of the
important.
park.
Yeah.
So what if he goes down? What if he can't play? What if he misses a portion of the season? Does that impact it at all? Because I think it does. If he goes missing for a bit, I think he's that important to this team, and they're very, very thin, I think, in midfield. And for one of those reasons, I've got them in 7th. They're missing out again on finals. And I just have to think to myself, surely when I'm doing a prediction, I'm thinking, 2 years straight not making finals, that's surely not. I'm trying to picture it, but again, there's just teams ahead of them. For me, at this current point in time, I think the pressure is going to be too much, especially at the back end of the season. I know the only positive now is no Asian football, which they sort of use as an excuse for a bit of a distraction, which, okay, they made a deep run, and you could probably point to a few injuries here and there. Douglas Costa wasn't fit week by week. Kamala is going to be a big loss as well up front. But you just look at the replacements, coming in to replace the likes of Douglas Costa, right? And I know they kept Joe Lolly, which is huge. There were rumours about him going to the Perth Glory. But, Al Hassan Touré, is he going to be, the man that Tele can depend upon to be able to save his job? I'm not too sure. I have to see a bit more of him in a Sky Blues outfit. So for me, the only reassurance for this side is defensively. I think they're going to be really, really rock solid. But besides that, it's going to be one of those seasons where it's going to come right down to the wire, and they're going to miss out just. But it's going to be very, very close.
Wow. Jacob?
Yeah, that's very wow. Although, I kind of don't hate the shout as well, because part of me was thinking they might not, because I like their squad on paper, and I think their starting 11 is probably one of the best in the leagues. But there's a couple of question marks there. The depth that you touched on there, Christian, obviously is a big one, especially in midfield. It's kind of, they've got their starting midfielders and then not a lot behind that, which is going to be a real struggle to get through the season. But the other one, of course, is Ufuk Talay. And, you know, big question marks over, is he the right man for the job? And I know there's a lot of Sydney fans that will say probably isn't, and that definitely didn't want him back after last season. So, you know, I think it could go either way, where it could be a really good season for them, where Talay takes on board all of that criticism, but focuses it into making sure that they're playing good football and that they're getting those results. Or it can go the other way, right, where it becomes overbearing, it all falls apart, wheels fall off, Joe Lolly leaves in January because he's unhappy, and that's the end of the season for them, you know. It's a difficult one. Like I said, I like their squad on paper. I think it looks good. I think they've got some great players. Paul Okonengsler obviously is a good one. Victor Campizano's come in as well, Spanish forward. I think he'll have a good impact too. Maybe not quite to the extent that Klimala had, but I think that he can play a good role in that final third alongside Joe Lolly and probably Al Hassan Toure. They've also got Abel Volatis come in, who will be great off the bench for them. So, you know, their defense has been shored up. Ben Garuccio's come in, Marcel Tisserand. Like, you know, I think that they do have a good squad. And I think that alone might be able to kind of get them through maybe some of the problems that might come in with Talay's systems. And I have them, kind of a return to form for them. Maybe not, you know, the heights of Lachie, but I've got them finishing in 4th place. I think they'll be a top 4 team this season. I think their squad is talented enough to do that. And, you know, my thinking is that Talay will kind of turn a corner this season and you know, get the squad playing the football that they should be playing and the results that they should be getting.
All right. Take a breath, Jacob. I'm coming straight back to you. 6th place in the 24-25 season. Adelaide United.
Yeah. Well, it was the most undeserved 6th place of all time. If it wasn't for an unbelievable bottle from Sydney FC, Adelaide wouldn't have been in finals after being the only real title challenger to Auckland through most of the season, which I think tells you just how bad the fall off was in that second half. And we all witnessed it and we all heard my complaints about it. But there is very little that has happened this off-season to give even a glimmer of hope or confidence. Things started out promisingly. You're bringing Craig Goodwin back.
Yeah, wow.
That's brilliant.
Start.
That's amazing. The Goodwin connection is going to be fantastic. And then you've still got Zach Clough and Stefan Moore as your 10s, and they're going to do so much work to create goals from the midfield, and it's going to be brilliant. And then, what's that? Archie Goodwin leaves, Stefan Moore leaves, Zach Clough leaves. You know, you've still got the same exact starting back four that was the problem for the club last season. Was just, you can't concede that many goals and expect to compete, and it's the exact same defense. There's been nothing there, and it's like, you know, it just feels like all of the good that was in the squad is now gone. And, you know, there's been a couple of decent signings. I think Juan Muniz could come in and be a really good player, a versatile attacking player, can also play in the 10 role. Like, I think he might have a good season. And Selmo, still not sold on, but reports are he's looked very good in pre-season and actually looks to be a pretty decent player. So, you know, that could be good, but it's still, there's no defense. There's zero depth. Like, it's literally the starting 11, and then behind that is teenagers. And I'm not even exaggerating that either. Like, go and look at the squad, and you will see what I mean. Like, it's an average age of like below 24, and there's like 6 players above the age of 30 in the squad. It's just not, the balance is not there, despite what players and the coach has been saying all preseason. The balance is great this season. We've nailed it. We're going to do it. I don't think it's there. Everybody in Adelaide seems to be on the exact same kind of wavelength that this is not going to be a competitive season for the club. It's kind of even at the point now where at members forum, for instance, it wasn't a case of, oh, you know, we're expecting our top 4 finish, which is what they said last season. They were just like, we're expecting to compete, which I think is an interesting choice of words to kind of change the narrative a little bit of, you can compete but finish 9th, you know. I don't think anybody is particularly confident that this is going to be a successful season for the club. So I have got them as one of the worst teams in the league this season, and I've put them in at 10th. I think that having Craig Goodwin in there gives them points over the Mariners and the Phoenix. I think that he can single-handedly drag them through a few games and get them some wins. But I think outside of that, there's not really a lot to look forward to. You know, obviously there's going to be more youngsters coming through, which is going to be great, and seeing those guys develop and probably sold off and make good money for the club again. But just in terms of, you know, actually competing for silverware, I really don't see it with the team that is there this season.
Yeah, I feel very similarly. I have them just one place down in 11th, so below the Phoenix, flipping around with you. And it was interesting. Robbie Cornthwaite had a piece out on Football 360 today talking about pretty much exactly what you said, and more stuff going on behind the scenes that
Yeah.
just doesn't bode well. Just in general, Christian,
Yeah.
it doesn't bode well. And add that in with the transfer window, and I just don't have a lot of hope that Adelaide United can do much this season.
I'm with Jacob. I've got Adelaide in 10th. I just look at this roster and I think it just hurts my brain, with all due respect. Like, it's so all over the place. There's no balance whatsoever.
Yeah.
Having to rely on a lot of young players, especially if a couple of key important players go down, like a Craig Goodwin, for instance, which, again, it was a very promising signing to begin with. But then as you see the transfer window develop, it's like they haven't built on that. They've actually gone backwards. And that was sort of one of the really disappointing parts if you're an Adelaide fan. So I just don't see the inspiration. I don't see how they're going to even make a push for finals. It's just, very, very underwhelming. So they'll be very lucky to, escape, the bottom 3, bottom 4 positions. If they get higher than that, they'll be the surprise of the season, because, it's a very, very average squad.
All right, Christian, back to you as well. The Melbourne victory. They lost a lot of players early on in the window. They got some more quality in towards the back end as well. One Mata, the big marquee signing. It'll be interesting to see what role he actually plays on the pitch. They finished 5th in season 24-25. Do you see them improving on that this time around?
I do. I see 3rd place for this victory side. And again, it was a bit of a toss-up between a few sides, because I've been harping on about how this is going to be a balancing act between a rebuild and pushing for something more, for a grand final, to go one better, to win a championship. But I just keep tossing and turning whether this side is actually ready to do that. And the expectation is going to be high, right? Because they've obviously lost the grand final to City only a few months before, and that's where the false sense of expectation lies, right? It's like, you guys already did it under Arthur Dillis, which with like less time, Dillis obviously came in to replace Kisnorba after a few games in unexpected circumstances. So from a fan's point of view, it's like, well, he's proven that he can go all the way or nearly all the way. So surely he can do it again. But it depends on obviously the transfer market and the moves they've made. And I think it's been positive for the most part, considering the players that have departed, right? Mashash, Azani, Teague. Already off the bat, that's 3 high-quality players in that starting 11, which you've got to adequately replace, right? And although I don't think the signings that they've made are going to replace them as such in terms of the quality, like the same quality, I think depth-wise, it's better. I think there's more depth with this squad, right? Jean Rao, for instance, coming in, I think he can make a huge impact in the midfield.
Signing.
He's going to be a really, really important part. Could potentially partner Jordi Valadon in the middle of the park, which we know, obviously, the partnership between Valadon and Teague was huge, right? So that's one of the key parts for Dillis to try and figure out, is who can partner Valadon, right? Consistently, week in, week out, to be reliable in front of that back four. So, Esposito is another one, Sebastian Esposito, the young centre-back who's obviously captain of the young Socceroos, captain, obviously, the Primavera side in Lecce as well, back in Italy. So he's already got a wealth of experience for his age. I think, obviously, it's a 1-year loan, but you've got to start him right from the outset, because Miranda signed this 1-year extension. But for me, he just doesn't have the legs anymore to start every match. For me, it's just not possible. The mistakes he makes as well, I just want someone more reliable to see in that back line. I think Esposito is the one. Jason Davidson knows the club inside out. He makes his return as well. So there's a lot of good signs there. It's just the outgoing departures, which are sort of, are they important enough to put this side down in terms of table position? Bruno Fornaroli, another one who's left. If he stayed for another season, Victory supporters wouldn't have been angry at that, because he's someone who can provide that spark off the bench. You saw that in finals where he even started a couple of games in that second leg semi in the grand final. So again, it's whether they've replaced these players properly, and we'll find out a bit more about that as the season progresses, because of that early exit in the Australia Cup. But I think you can put this team anywhere between 1st and 6th or 7th, really. Like, it's really a toss-up. They can be anywhere, like literally. I wouldn't even be complaining where you guys put them, as long as it's not 11th or 12th, then yeah, I think they can go anywhere essentially.
So I think with this Melbourne Victory side, yeah, they could probably go anywhere in the top 6. And I just think out of the other teams that I was wrestling with in that area, I think Melbourne Victory just have the most question marks around them.
Interesting.
It's just, you've lost the quality of Arzani on the wing. You're probably looking at the likes of Volupile and Piscopo, who had injury issues. Is he going to start every game? Nikos Virgos is still unproven in the A-League. Who partners Jordi Valadon? They've brought in Franco Lino on loan as well as Jason Davidson, who's in that left-back spot. Do you play someone like a Seb Esposito? Do you play a 3 at the back? And just all these little bits and pieces that I just think there is so much unanswered, especially Arthur Dillis as well. This is only going to be his first full season in a senior head coach role. So for me, I have them 5th, just to allow a little bit of wiggle room for those teams above them. I think they will make finals. But yeah, just and this is probably like an opinion that could change 2 weeks into the season, depending on how hot they start.
Well, I was going to say, like, the opinion on this team has changed in the last, 3 weeks, right? From where it was, where it's like, oh, they're going to be rubbish, to, oh, hang on, actually, they're looking pretty good now, so.
What do you think, Jacob?
Well, I don't know, maybe it's controversial. I've got them as my premiers. I've put them in first.
There you go.
I think a lot of those question marks that you bring up are exciting to me. They're the things that make me excited about this team, right? Like the question marks over who partners Valadon in the midfield. I don't think is a bad question mark. I think it's a case of you've got a few options there. Like, there's the opportunity for there to be these different personnel matchups in the midfield. I don't see Victory losing a midfield battle all season long with the quality and the depth that they've got there. Like, I think that's a really exciting thing. They can play, like you said, you can play with 3 at the back. Are they going to do that? Well, it's the fact they've got the option to. There are clubs here that don't have an option. They have to play one way because that's all the players that they've got, Like, I think that, maybe in my mind I've just flipped these questions around, but I'm looking at it as like, these are kind of interesting, possibilities for them. Juan Mata, maybe it was just a case of role and personnel at the Wanderers, right? And he's gonna absolutely dominate in a Victory shirt. And now you're not worrying about who's gonna score the goals, because it's the easiest goals they've ever scored because it's Juan Mata's providing them. Like I think that this is a really good team. Signing the likes of Matt Grimaldi as well. Claris Mario comes back. I know he kind of didn't really kick on last season, but there were glimpses that there's some quality there. Nishan Volupile has looked pretty solid for the most part, especially in a Socceroos shirt. So if he can bring that form to the Victory too, then that's good. Reno Piscovo's always been pretty reliable. Like, yeah, I think this is a pretty exciting team. Personally, I think actually the biggest question mark is about their defense, and it is, there are some unproven players there, or as Christian put, players who maybe don't have it in their legs anymore. But I think that this is a really exciting team, and I think that just the added benefit of them being the Victory is just like they're always going to compete, right? And I think that might give them the edge. And it's kind of something we spoke about too. I think you touched on it, Lachie, in the build up to the semi-final against Auckland, where it's like it's the Victory, right? Like, you can't say that they're not going to get the job done, because they always turn up in finals games. And I think that for a kind of a similar reason, they might have a little bit of an aura about them this season that gets them through to. I think they're going to finish top. So yeah.
Fascinating. All right, there you go. Two of our premiers have been named already. We haven't even cracked the top 4 yet from last season, which is interesting. We are out to the top 4. For some reason, there's only 3 teams left. Don't know what happened there. But let's go to the Western Sydney Wanderers, who are my premiers for the 25-26 season. And I just, look, again, there are so many teams that were fighting for this. I just reckon the momentum that they have is brilliant. And I think the players they've brought in have the potential to make a good team champions. You look at the likes of Angus Thurgate, who was just the gem of a pickup. Probably him and Ben Garuccio were the 2 hot properties coming out of Western United, maybe with the exclusion of Dylan Leonard, who was going overseas. Yeah, him coming in, Steven Ugarkovic will create a really solid midfield. Don't forget, Dylan Cicluna is going to come back from injury and jump into that midfield.
Once
they
lost him last season, it was they lost something in the midfield, and
that was the key for them falling off a little bit, and then they had that extraordinary run towards the end of the season. Plus, in Costa Barbarouses and Alu Kual, who has done some very good work under Alan Stojic before at the Mariners. So yes, you lose your Johnny Warren medalist in Nicholas Milanovic. Yes, you lose Zach Sapsford. Alex Badalato, of course, he was at loan, but Oscar Priestman, those kind of players, and Juan Mata. But I just think there's enough there. And I think if they get on a streak, they're going to keep going again. I think Stage is building something cool. I think the Wanderers faithful will get around them. And I think it is finally time for the Wanderers to get back on the trophy list in the A-League, Christian.
Yeah, I don't mind that. Not out of the realms of possibility. It's funny how you guys, Jacob doesn't laugh at Jacob putting the Wanderers first, but last season you guys all laughed at me. So yeah, interesting.
Well, no, because
but,
the Wanderers aren't what they were last year. Let's be realistic here. They're everything they'd gone through in that off season.
Sydney and Melbourne looked so good.
They looked so good.
And Sydney didn't make it final. So how's that for you? Anyway, Victory finished fifth too. So there you go. But I've got the Wanderers in fourth. I think, going to your point, Lachie, I think the momentum heading into this season is huge. Another year for Alan Stajic, which I think was a well-deserved, contract extension. Obviously, there were a lot of doubts around the Juan Mata situation, how poorly that was handled. But at the end of the day, really, I don't think Stajic wanted him. He wasn't part of his plans, obviously, making some cameos off the bench. And now he's finally got this squad to work with, the squad that he wants, right? Players like you got Ugarkovic and Brillante in the midfield. I think those two in particular are going to be key for the Wanderers this season. The likes of Barbarouses coming in, sort of like, I'm not going to say Barbarouses is one of those players going to be an integral piece, but one of those bit part players who can really play a role, whether that be on the bench or can provide that goal or assist when you really need it. He's one of those types of players, even on the counter attack, someone on the wing who can just provide that extra bit of spark, which I think the Wanderers have been lacking out on the widths. I know Milanovic is probably one of those players you could argue, fit that bill, but obviously he's departed now for Europe, which would be a big blow. But in saying that, I think they've got the right pieces to even make a grand final push once finals comes around. But yeah, this is another club who you could probably put them in a few different places, to be honest. I just happened to put them in fourth.
Jacob, where do you have them?
Yeah, I've got them second. It was a toss-up between them and Victory for me as to who I thought was going to finish first. And I just went with Victory just because it's the Victory. And it's kind of almost an expectation that they're going to do well. But I do like this Wanderers team. I think somebody we haven't touched on, but Brandon Borello, if he can stay fit for a whole season, that's going to be a big benefit because he's been in and out of the squad for a while now because of his injuries. If he can stay around, that's going to really solidify that final third. Bojidar Kraev as well is another really, really good player who can make an impact. So Aidan Hammond too, a youngster that can have his impact this season. I just think it's a good team. You're even looking defensively where it's kind of that's been their problem recently. I think extending Gabriel Kleur was a really good move. He was a tremendous fullback last season, and then you've got the likes of Alex Skurs back in there, Alex Bonatig, Philip Kankar comes in. He's brilliant depth to have. Anthony Pantazopoulos as well, kind of really burst onto the scene last season. I think that they've got a very, very good squad. So yeah, it was a toss-up for me between Victory and Wanderers to finish top. So I've got the Wanderers in second just because I had the Victory just that little bit ahead of them.
All right, so we got Western United who finished third last year. And then I just want to highlight the fact that we got Melbourne City and Auckland FC, the top two teams in the league last year, who arguably haven't had that much significant first team rotation in the window. And none of them are finishing top of the league for all three of us, which is kind of crazy. But it just shows you, how even this competition can be, or at least that we perceive it to be. But Melbourne City, Christian, I think that just obviously the big question mark is the loss of their two star wingers, Marco Tilio and Jonathan Cohen. Now, they've replaced them with Rushani and Kanamori, who just so far have not proven themselves that they are up to filling those positions. And granted, that is coming off one game for Rushani and two for Kanamori in the Champions League against very good opposition. So another team that could completely, just blow the predictions out of the water. I've gone a little bit of a gamed prediction just because I think if I'm slightly right in this, then I think it's going to help me on the points board towards the end of the year. But my official prediction for Melbourne City, and this is kind of based on the idea that playing in the Asian Champions League elite is tough. If you're going to play good teams and you're going to lose often, that is tough. I have Melbourne City missing the finals for the first time since the City Football Group taken over. I have them finishing in 7th. And that's where I put them last year, and they finished second. So who knows what's going to happen. But I just think that the competition is going to be that even. And with the extra additive of Asia. And look, I remember talking about the Central Coast Mariners last year, and they had a very poor season. But we all said in their first couple of games, despite the way they lost, we actually thought they played quite well. And we're still optimistic about what they could do in the A-League season. But just getting loss after loss, and then that spiraled in the A-League season, and that just it proved too big a gap for them to catch up. So I'm predicting somewhat of a similar story. I hope they don't. I hope they do well in Asia. But Christian, that's why I have him in 7th.
I was contemplating them missing out on finals as well, to be honest. So you're sort of not alone, but I do have them making it. I've got them in 5th, just above the Jets. I think just because of what they did last year, I just don't think you can disregard that. I know the couple of players you mentioned, Lachie, that have departed, they're going to be obviously huge losses. But again, Asian football, I do agree that that's going to hinder them a bit, especially being, playing such tough teams, and it's that confidence, right? I think last season, just solely focusing on the league, I think City went on that good run, that good stretch of form where you thought, okay, they're actually building something, even with the injuries that they had, right? Vidmar found a way to be able to put that aside and just get a point here and there, results where you thought weren't possible, right? I just think Asia's just too big of a challenge for them. But in saying that, I've got them in 5th because of just the teams below them. I think they're just going to be worse than City this season, in all honesty, and that's the only reason why I've got them placing as they are. So, again, it's so difficult to just decide sort of, on the spot, before the season starts, because there's just so many factors that go into it. But I'm given Vidmar's experience as well, champions as well of Australia, you can't dismiss that totally. So I'm just going to show them a bit of respect in that regard.
Fair enough. Jacob?
Yeah, I'm with Christian. I've got them 5th as well. I didn't quite have them with the strengths of the squads of the top 4. I think that they're lacking a lot of depth in places. I think they're lacking starters in some spots as well. I think the midfield looks pretty bare for them this season.
Really? You think the midfield's bare?
I think so.
The first 11? Kai Truan, Matt Leckie, Andres Kuhn.
See, but I don't like Kai Truan as a 6.
But if they have Ferreira and Suprayan, they're going to play Truan as a 6.
But I just feel like you'd rather have a 6 rather than a centre back step into the 6. I don't know. That's just me. That's just my thoughts on the matter. But and then still the question of scoring goals. It was their problem, I suppose, all last season, and they just managed to scrape through here and there. With they had 0 first team strikers at one point, I think, because of injuries.
They will have Max Caputo back for the whole season. That's going to be obviously
they will.
So
that's a big one.
That is then a very unproven front 3. Yeah. Max Caputo playing his first full season with Rashani and Kanamori.
Yeah. I just don't think that they're quite good enough to crack the top 4 with the strength of the squads of the top 4. But like Christian said, I don't think they're as bad as the teams that are kind of below them. And I don't hate your pick either, Lachie, of having them out the finals, because again, they're one of those ones in that group where it's like, if you want to have a Newcastle making the finals or a Perth making the finals, it's like City are kind of the team that misses out there, right? And so it's I didn't have those teams in the finals, so I've got City in 5th.
All right, final team to go, Auckland FC, the premiers of last season, not the premiers this season, according to us at least. Christian, by my math, I think you have them in 2nd place. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yep. For me, they're still going to be challenging, right? I still think they're one of those teams who some people probably think, okay, they had this really good season. Now it's time for them to drop off. Like we saw a bit with Wellington Phoenix last season, where, again, we predicted them to have a really strong season, but then obviously different circumstances, right? I mean, they didn't really have the same squad. They had a couple of injuries. I think for Auckland, they've been smart with their transfer business, right? They haven't gone out too crazy. Yes, they've lost a couple of, really good players like Moreno, for example, which obviously play a crucial part, in their title charge, the first place. But, obviously keeping Steve Corica, keeping that core group, Sakai, these real core players that can, again, help them with another title charge, I think it's going to be key. So I look at this squad overall and think not too much has changed, but I think that's a good thing. And it's a different circumstance for different clubs. Different clubs will be in a position where they had to have a complete overhaul in the transfer window. Auckland aren't in that boat, right? They just need to, pick and choose a couple of positions where they can strengthen the bit and just keep flowing with the same squad, keep the same consistency and keep building, right? Because I don't think you just throw it all away after one season, despite losing out in the semi-final to a very good victory side. So I think Auckland is still on the up. There's still a lot of potential there to be tapped into, and Corica is that guy to get them over the line. Because I remember in that post-match interview after that loss against Victor in the second leg, I think one of the questions was, how motivated will you be now for next season? And Corica basically said something along the lines of, obviously, this is gonna sting in the meantime, but for next season we're gonna remember this game and we're gonna be back big and stronger. So I think this whole preseason, they've been working towards this moment to try and hopefully, for their sake, win the championship, go on better, make that grand final. So yeah, we'll see.
And Jacob, third for you?
Correct. Yeah. I think that they're just kind of going to be good again this season. There's not been huge turnover, which is always a good thing for a team that had a successful season in kind of keeping that core squad around. I just think they're going to be a decent team, and I just think that perhaps the ceiling for the Wanderers and the Victory is a little bit higher than Auckland's, with the caliber of some of their, kind of higher end players that they've got. But I think Auckland just generally don't put a foot wrong. That's what they showed last season, obviously. And I think that's going to serve them well again here. So, yeah, solid backline. They've got a very strong midfield. They've got sometimes a bit streaky front line, but, bringing Lachlan Brook in, I think, is a good signing. He was very, very good for the Wanderers last time he was in the A-League. So it's just, I think that they've got a good squad together. Steve Corica, shown himself to be very reliable. So, I just think that the ceilings for the Wanderers and the Victory, in my mind, are higher. I wouldn't blame anybody for putting Auckland above those two teams either. But for me, I've got them in third.
All right. I have them in third as well. And honestly, because of one transfer, Alex Paulson. I think he was that crucial to the run they went on at the start of the season. The defense, of course, was great, and they've kept all of those players. Peinecker is injured for the first little bit of the season. So I think likely Jake Gerwood-Reich will probably come in to fill that slot and allow Sakai to play right back. So they're still going to be very solid. They're going to be a great team. Again, would not surprise me if they won the premiership again. But I just think Alex Paulson, he was so critical.
That's a good point,
He's just such a good player.
And they've brought in, Ollie Sale, who...
Ollie Sale.
He's shown his moments at, Perth, but I think there's still kind of question marks over, if he's going to be able to kind of live up to that Alex Paulson level that Auckland had last season.
For sure. He was very good at Wellington a couple of years before that as well, of course. And they have Michael Vowd there as well. So they have a couple of good goalkeeping options, but... I don't think either of them are touching the heights of Alex Paulson. But there you go. There are our ladder predictions. Now, if you're watching along on the YouTube video, here are all the other submissions from our RBA members. We've got a few more this year, which is great. It's going to be a competitive year. If you're listening along on the podcast, I'm not going to read them out to you. That would be the most terrible listening experience. You're just going to go and have to scroll the end of the video. Give us a like while you're there. But we're not done yet. We still have to crown last year's winner. Now, when we did this, we had every intention of getting to the end of the season and then reacting to these ladders. But we honestly just forgot to get around to it. So we're doing it here. I've done the numbers. These guys don't know who the winner is. I'm about to reveal it to them. The way we do it is you get, I picked Sydney FC to come first last season. They came in 7th. So 7 minus 1 is 6. I get 6 points for Sydney FC, and your aim is to get the lowest score possible. Mm-hmm. So scores ranged between 56 and 68. So that is extraordinary high.
That's an average of like five positions off for every team.
That's terrible.
Yep. I can't remember what score won it the year before, but I reckon it was like in the 40s, or maybe even 30s. So this year was bad. Look, Western United screwed us all. We had them in 12th. all four of us, Paletti included, and they got up to third, which hurt. What else were the surprise
Sydney.
packages? Sydney, yes, of course, finishing low. We were all pretty high on Wellington as well.
Yep.
We all had them inside the top five, and obviously they kind of crumbled. So that cost us some points. But I'll allow a little bit of tension, a little bit of build up as I turn on the screen share, and I'll let Jacob and Christian react to the winner of the 24-25
Guarantee it's
Ramble
Lachie.
Australia A-League Men
100%
ladder
it's Lachie
predictions.
I'm going to be mad if it's Lachie.
He's just hoarding all the gold stars at this point. It's just
Here we go. What am I looking at?
Paletti.
Paletti. Really?
Paletti
Wow.
got it. Paletti. Okay,
Wow.
let's just get this straight, right? Paletti put victory in ninth.
Put Wellington first?
And Wellington first, and put victory in ninth, and we mocked them, and we put that as the intro to the video because we thought it would be a good controversial hook.
That's
But
crazy.
they nailed Brisbane in 13th. Obviously, I was high on Brisbane. That killed me. They got the Jets in 10th as well. We all had them finishing dead last. So that was a nice little gain for them. Jacob, you lost points on Auckland and Wellington as well. I was done with like City putting City low as well. And Christian, you were close, only 2 votes behind. But Paletti just got you at the death.